Good morning, still morning I believe. Thank you very much for welcoming me today. I don't control the microphone with a French accent, so I'm going to speak slowly. We have something quite different and innovative. I mean, you may know Art Basel, global art fair with a presence in Miami Beach, in Basel, Europe, and in Hong Kong since 2012, which is a time where I moved here from Basel, Switzerland. A few years back, we were really looking at the future of our industry and wondering, what else could we do? We have such a strong presence with our art fair, which are global exchange platform, and we decided not to create another art fair. And then the question was, in a bit of soul searching and marketing workshop and brand workshop, we defined Art Basel as an exchange platform that drives the art world forward. And for us, suddenly, this became an open door for many opportunities. We were approached every month and are still approached regularly by cities, very interested into the economic impact that Art Basel in Miami Beach and Art Basel in Basel have delivered. The respective council report about $500 million of economic impact every year from our event. But for us, it was really about trying to find a new way to engage the art world. There is over 300 international art fairs in the world, hundreds of triennale, biennale being delivered every year, and the question was, what could we do that really contribute to the arts? What could we do that create a new platform of engagement? What could we do that will fulfill the wants and needs of the collectors, of the galleries, of the museums, of the key players and thought leaders of the art world? So I went on to fascinating journey around the world of meeting mayors and cities and trying to understand what was their needs and wants. And we came up with a new concept called Art Basel Cities, which is not an art fair. We were fortunate in September 16 to announce the first partnership with Buenos Aires, which is still ongoing, and I'm going to present here. It's a 100-page document, so I'm not going to take you through all of it, but certainly some glimpse of what we've achieved with Buenos Aires. But if I summarize in a few words what this is about, it is about us after 50 years of existence as an art organization, which has for pillars as an activity, a trade show platform. We are a place where collectors and millionaires and billionaires of this world and the art world in general come to meet and fulfill their passion for art. It's a transaction place, not only in terms of purchasing art, but transaction in terms of exchange that are intellectual. And we became a significant cultural event in the cities where we have a presence. So what we offer to cities, for Art Basel Cities, is on one hand, our expertise in terms of looking at an art scene, and we enabling those art scenes through a first process of immersion and discovery. We have in Buenos Aires a good 2 years of experience. We spent 6 months on the ground in a very humble way, asking the artists, the collectors, the gallerists, the curators, the institutions, the non-for-profit, the government agency, and all the key players of this art scene, asking them where we're at. What is the future of Buenos Aires? What are your vision? What are your ambitions? What are your pain points? How could we help? Out of this, we defined a comprehensive 3-year strategic plan and one common goal, which was wanted by all after 15 years of political isolation. And Buenos Aires, I have to say, is not next door. You know, I do this trip. I've been there 15 times, maybe in the past 2 years, and I'm based in Hong Kong. So it's a long trip. You know, it's a 12 hours straight drop from New York. So we looked at Buenos Aires and we started to define a strategy where we bring our capacity. And our capacity is one of cultural programming, but not as a show that comes and imposes its name and brings the best of what the world has to offer, but as a global promoter, putting on stage the talent of the city, giving them an opportunity to present the best of what they have to offer. And then combining all this with our very powerful communication machine today. We have about 3 million followers on social media. We have 250,000 visitors to our events. We have a very powerful PR machine also. So our name is today synonymous of quality at the highest level. I mean, I'm French myself, as you can hear. I'm not Swiss, and I worked in Japan. I was in the Middle East also, working on the museum project in Saudi Thailand. I worked in Australia, I worked in Europe, but my biggest cultural shock was not even coming to Hong Kong, which I love very much, but simply going to Switzerland and discovering a business culture that asks for religion, quality control, and process at whatever cost. And that focus has delivered a very powerful entity today called Art Basel. So we bring our expertise, we bring our capacity to the service of cultural scene, where the first condition for us is to find a cultural scene that is vibrant, with incredible content. Buenos Aires is a bit isolated due to its geographical position, and also due to its history. And we found a government also there, which was our first partner. We work with government of cities that was extremely committed to art and culture, with a deep understanding on how art and culture can have an impact on economic impact for the growth and development of a city. And many cities today have that understanding. I have to say that since we launched and announced Art Basel Cities in March 2016, we've been approached by over 60 cities, wanted to know more about what is Art Basel City, how can you help us in creating a bridge internationally, because our mission for Buenos Aires is on one hand to bring the art world to Buenos Aires, and here we touch about cultural tourism, but also bringing the key players of the arts in to create opportunities of exchange, and then bringing back Buenos Aires to the art world, which is our next chapter in 2019. Let me know when I have to stop, because this is 3 years of work, and I can go on forever. So, on one hand, we play as cultural programmer, but this is an adventure which we do as a catalyst. So we have in Buenos Aires over 22 local cultural institutions that we work with. The full spectrum of the galleries, there's about 80 art galleries in Buenos Aires that we've been working with and giving them an opportunity to play with us. We attracted this year, we had what we call the Art Basel Cities Week. So we communicate year-round. We are there to advise. We are there to, the government, for example, looked at its art scene and asked us immediately, is there any law we need to change to support our international outreach and support the growth of our local art scene? I'm talking about visual art mainly when I say art scene here. Even if in Buenos Aires you have, as a destination, certainly a long history in literature and film and performing art also. So those are just quotes from the ministers on how, I remember always my first meeting with the mayor of Buenos Aires, who looked at me and said, if through the exercise of Art Basel Cities we can get this art scene to work together, we will achieve something extraordinary. And this was actually the first concern I had, the political landscape of getting so many different parties with so many different agendas to rally behind one flag and work together. And it has been an incredible journey to achieve this. Because today we have the foundation for the future of this art scene in Buenos Aires, of the institution working together with the gallerists, with the non-for-profit. A great bridge. There is every 2 weeks now a meeting held by the Minister of Culture where we receive 10 to 15 local representatives of the art scene. There's great communication happening, and this is a result of us stepping in as an external voice in a way. So we had this incredible Art Basel Cities Week just a few weeks back in September, where one thing we did was to bring in Cecilia Alemani, who is the curator of the Highline Public Art Program in New York, and also was the curator of the Italian Pavilion at the last Venice Biennale. Cecilia is here and was quite a hero for us. She picked up the concept of hopscotch. This is a title of a book from Julio Cortázar and certainly a reference to the kids' game and Hkaaa in Spanish, and basically selected 18 artists, 75% of them being Argentinian artists, and the other part international names such as Mauricio Catalan, and used the city as an open museum. We wanted there certainly to create an opportunity not only for the Argentinian but for our friends from all around the world to engage with Buenos Aires in a way that was also celebrating the city's story and its heritage. And if you've never been there, please go. That's part of my job here, to bring people to Buenos Aires, quality people like you. This is a piece from Eduardo Basualdo. So Cecilia found venues that were quite amazing and kind of forgotten. This is an 8-meter-long pier, which is exclusively accessible if you are part of an association of local fishermen. So we opened it to the public for the period of a week, and it was amazing to see through this journey of hopscotch how so many Argentinian and international visitors, but the Argentinian people telling us, I'm rediscovering my city. There's so many secrets I didn't know about. I mean, you need to know that in the 1920s and 30s, Buenos Aires was one of the wealthiest cities in the world. And there is, from that legacy, incredible architecture, Art Deco building everywhere, and so on. So it's a city with great character. Those are the 18 artists. As you can see, we had quite a few performing pieces also. This is the Botanical Garden of Buenos Aires. In La Boca, which is an area of Buenos Aires which the government is trying to gentrify through art and culture. You have a significant institution there called PROHA, with quite a wonderful international exchange program in terms of art content and exhibition. This was a piece from Gabriel Chile, which was actually facing a local favelas, and it's an oven where, as a performance, you had some asado, Argentinian barbecue during the day, and a great engagement with the population. As I mentioned, we worked with many cultural institutions across the city in different locations, giving them an opportunity of exposure and recognition that they never had before. I'm going through this quickly. I just want you to enjoy what Buenos Aires has to offer. We had, of course, an extensive program of talks. One aspect of Buenos Aires, after being isolated for so many years, was the want and need from the local art scene to learn and to connect and to exchange with international visitors and learn about best practice, certainly for the art gallery scene also, which we care so much about. So we had this program of exchange and encounters and meetings held in different buildings in the cities. So in a way, it's difficult, when we face the world today, and I'm perpetually facing journalists asking me, but what is Art Basel City? Is it a biennale? It's not an art fair? Is it a talk program? I think it's really, for each city, it will be a tailor-made program where we bring focus on what the city has to offer, showcase its talent, and address its weakness. That are opportunities for us in terms of bringing some expertise and shaping, giving them a good platform for the future. Arteba Foundation is this incredible organization run by 8 dedicated and passionate women. We know in the art that passion is quite an incredible currency when you want to move forward. It's a fair that attracts about 100 galleries that has been around for 25 years, a non-profit organization with a mission to bring Buenos Aires to the world. So somehow, even being Art Basel, being known as this global mega commercial art fair, for us, working in partnership with this foundation was quite extraordinary. They opened so many doors. They gave us such an insight and understanding of the local art scene. I think the first beautiful aspect of Art Basel Cities is really for us to dive into a cultural DNA and in a very respectful way to find strategies and tools to bring it to the world and create opportunities for each of its players. You will see many incredible buildings or cultural partners, a few quotes. I mean, if anybody is interested, I'm going to stay a little bit after this presentation. I'm happy to give my card and share some information on this detailed report. We had picked up also about 100 personalities from the art world that we thought could contribute to the future of Buenos Aires. You can see that they were coming from 20 different countries. We had some Japanese friends even from this part of the world. But we have 2 board organizations, one for Buenos Aires, where we had local representatives and also a few international personalities with a strong relationship to Argentina. And then we have a global advisory board, which is quite international for this mission that we are really looking at pushing forward long term. So this is one of our little recipes for success. So VIP representative network. Art Basel has about 31, I think, representatives around the world that spends their time connecting with the local art scene, with the collectors, with the museum directors, with the curators, and representatives to make sure that when we do an event such as the one we held a few weeks back in Buenos Aires, they can bring their friends, and their friends have to be influential players of our art scene, thought leaders, and so on. This is a team in question. Yes, we commissioned 3 local photographers to really give us some content in terms of this incredible architecture of Buenos Aires, celebrating the heritage that translates today into incredible contemporary art practice. There is amazing pride from the Buenos Aires people, the porteños and the porteñas, as they are called, into their culture. You do not go into a museum in Buenos Aires at any time of the day that is not full with visitors of all age. It's a very cultured destination. We had a piece from Barbara Kruger here on some silos that were abandoned previously. Cecilia Alemany also activated some abandoned industrial areas. We had Mauricio Catalan commissioning about 250 local artists for Tombstone to celebrate a living friend, and this resulted in some challenging conversation with the government due to the fact that obviously when you commission 250 artists to express themselves freely on a tombstone, they are going to have some epitaph on those tombstones that can be challenging politically for a government. But this was quite, and Mauricio is known for being so controversial, so the piece really started for us when we started to receive the proposal. It's not only a week of tombstone in one of the public spaces of Buenos Aires, it was also a conversation for months and months on what is the limit of public art that is tolerable by a government, also even in an open and democratic environment, because Argentina is still a very conservative society, and we were playing here with a cemetery, with tombstone and some political comments sometimes. Of course, a lot of events. This is quite an extraordinary building, a brutalist building, the Biblioteca Nacional, which was opened in 1971, but active since last century also. And you can see at the front a piece that is going to stay there now. And that's a legacy from our engagement and the support of the government and a few philanthropists in Buenos Aires that have been supporting us also. It's a piece from Leandro Katz and represent a lunar alphabet, which is now going to stay as part of this feature of this building. That's Leandro Cast here on the left side, the top picture with Cecilia talking. So during that week was an incredible level of exchange. We had obviously some partners here. We played a role trying to bring cooperation to Buenos Aires that never supported the art. That's also something we want to leave behind. The good news when we work with the city with funding the program is that we step in with our corporate partners. So as soon as the door opens, we already have some funding for them to start and play with us. That's an activation from, I remember my first show in Hong Kong here with Art Basel, and I was talking to some collector's friend in Los Angeles for a good 30 minutes about the fair. And then I asked them, where were you? Which hotel did you stay? And they told me, oh no, we were not there. We saw it all on Instagram. And we had for 30 minutes beforehand that conversation, and I really felt they were with us. So the power of social media in pushing forward a cultural destination is extraordinary. Here, as an example, we had UBS putting on stage Guillermo Cuitca, very established Argentine artist, and Pablo León de la Barra, who is on our board of Art Basel Cities, Buenos Aires, but also working as a curator for South America for the Guggenheim. That event attracted 190 members, but 480,000 looked at the talk on the live stream channels that UBS had, and this is just for UBS. I think on our side, we have achieved also an incredible level of reach, and Buenos Aires became, and still is today. I'm going to Miami Beach for a show very soon, and there will be so many questions, but for luck, we will have with us many representatives of the Argentinian art scene. You can see the social media campaign for 5.6 million impressions, 2.2 million engagement. I think it's important. I was listening to the speaker before, and the question was, what kind of impact do you have? I think today you can measure impact, and it's important to do so. Particularly in our case, we when we invest our time and the city invests in us, we want to make sure when we start to talk to a city also that the funding we get from the city is funding that is not being taken away from the arts. Otherwise, we are from the very day one failing our mission to bring support and hope for the future. So we talked to Ministry of Tourism, for example, in Buenos Aires, never contributed to art and culture, and they did public space, economic development, corporate sponsorship, and so on. And we increased the investment of the government into culture, demonstrating return and value. So press, media coverage, just to give you an example of impact, which can be measured when you work with a city. I mean, those are benchmark in the PR industry. The PR value of the press coverage calculated at over $47 million US. What does it mean? Not much, except there was a lot of press, but it is a benchmark that we can use in also next year when we keep moving to demonstrate that we are having an incredible international outreach. We had a press trip, about 12 journalists coming with us to Buenos Aires last year, this year, and interviewing the key players of this art scene. Many quotes, a very positive overall media coverage that positioned Buenos Aires as a real destination for visual art and contemporary art and created that awareness abroad that I am pushing again here in front of all of you. An amazing destination and a place to enjoy for art and culture well beyond visual art, marketing and communication. This is so here we have a unique model where we take care of the international outreach. The city is focusing on the local outreach, which is in Spanish through all their media channel and different ministries. And then we have all of the cultural institutions also promoting this event we put together, but also working in partnership with them year-round. So we are available. You know, my team will go very shortly to Buenos Aires, meeting again the cultural institution and having conversation with them on selecting maybe 10 curators that we can take abroad next year. Part of our service is to do this matchmaking service, where if you are a curator of Buenos Aires and you want to go to New York, we may be able to facilitate some connection and open a few doors for you, just as an example. Our marketing campaign, I don't want to go too much into the detail of this, but really we have a very coordinated communication campaign using all the possible amplifiers available at our disposition from local institutions, the galleries, the government and their agencies, and our own proprietary communication channel, whether they are print advertising, social media, and of course our shows and on our website. We had the full online catalog of the event, so you could, you know, there's a beautiful film on our website at the moment. I was hoping also to present it here today. I don't know if I will have the time, but it's just a 3-4 minutes film, but that will give you a great experience of what Buenos Aires is about. Some editorial and which were impactful. I mean, Maurizio Catalan, Italian artist, 6,934 page views for the articles that was wrote about him. Cecilia's interviews also. We celebrated 3 Argentine photographers that really gave us some incredible pictures and sight of these cities. Editorial service also, that's Eduardo Basualdo on the right here, some local collector, Pirici, and international artists contributing also to the program, newsletters going out, 17,000 invitees, and so on, printed map, e-news from the different local partners, invitation, VIP program, digital advertising, 4.3 million impressions, 48,000 clicks. So, I mean, those are things you can measure. We had the Biennale of Sao Paulo opening just a week before our event, so we made the most over there. We had a cocktail party over there for some international VIPs, and you know, we pushed also our message from Sao Paulo to Buenos Aires is a 2-hour flight, so we wanted also to leverage this opportunity. We suddenly celebrated Buenos Aires in its own city with billboard and public advertising. So quite a significant engagement for a week, and the impact of this is being measured as we speak. We have a partnership with Ernst & Young. I think, again, 0 minute, I think I'm gone, but I look forward to your question in a minute. So please, if you want to. I saw the 0 minute. I can continue if you wish, but yeah? Except if you have enough. Just maybe quickly through this again, more details about how the government worked with us. I'm reaching the end of this presentation. But really you understand the proposition here. So we play as a global promoter, we play as a cultural producer in partnership with all the key players, and we play as an advisor to the government on how to structure and enable the art scene. Social media was incredible. in terms of outreach. So here is Buenos Aires today, and you know, we have another chapter with them in 2019. We are in discussion with quite a few cities for the future. 2020 will be us starting a new relationship with another city in another part of the world. I can't say more on this at this stage. But it has been, for the team and ourselves, quite an extraordinary journey of discovery and learning. Number one, because it is a new platform. Number two, because we were going to a new city where we didn't speak the language, where we didn't know anything, so we had to be very humble and realistic in our approach and listen carefully at the very beginnings. It's a steep learning. The Argentinian government is facing a serious economic crisis. As we were delivering our week, the pesos collapsed by 40%. But the Argentinian people are so resilient. Their commitment to art and culture is quite extraordinary. And moving forward, you know, we look forward to 2019 with them, where we're going to bring our focus to bring them abroad. That's it. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
This is Tai Kwun. This is the Central Police Station compound. It's right in the middle of Central. It's surrounded by 4 streets, and many of these streets are one-way streets, and we are primarily surrounded by sidewalks as well. And so in terms of accessibility, this is not the easiest location to get to. We are in the middle of the old central neighborhood and the new commercial area. And so for the longest time, this has been a closed-off site that's been stuck in the middle of Central. Now, the site itself has 3 declared monuments: the Central Police Station, the Central Metro-C, and the Victoria Prison. All of them being developed ever since 1841, which means that this is from the very beginning of colonial Hong Kong. And this site has been running until 2006. And that means that it's actually a witness to the modern Hong Kong and its development. I'll just flip through a few images really quickly because it was the first police headquarters in Hong Kong. So quite a lot of development in the city. You can actually see a testimony there. So that's a photograph of Block 3, the Barrack Block. Today it's a 4-story building, and it used to be a 3-story building before 1905. Before its expansion on site, you can see that where the parade ground is today, there used to be also parades and all kinds of ceremony. And before the headquarters block, which is on Hollywood Road, was built, there was a lawn at the front and a row of tenement housing there. This is the headquarters block. As you can see at the far end, that's the central staircase, which is a tremendously important architectural feature for this building. That's the Central Metro-C. This is actually the 3rd generation of this building, ever since the very first in the 1840s. And this is a highly complicated building because it's a courthouse building, and it also used to house different kinds of facilities as well. And so this is actually in our next phase of opening, where we'll open hopefully to the public next year. This is the historic D Hall, which used to be a semi-radial plan prison. And as you can see, this is on the left of the photograph. That's actually the original prison wall, which is something that we have conserved and restored. And to its left is actually Chancery Lane. Just a few photographs to give you a sense of how the prisons were like. So if you've been to Tai Kwun in the past 6 months, you know that we actually kept some of these prison halls so that the public will have an opportunity to understand better of the spatial setting of the cell blocks. For the revitalization project, as I mentioned, the entire site was decommissioned back in 2006. And in 2008, the Hong Kong government and the Jockey Club have reached an agreement to join hands to revitalize this site. Fundamentally, the government is our landlord, and the Jockey Club will be responsible for financing the conservation works, the restoration work, and also operating the site as well. This used to be, as I mentioned, a closed-off site because it was a police station, a courthouse, and a prison. So going in and going out is not their priority back then. So one of the major things that we have to do is to see how we can actually turn a site that is used to be closed off into a site that is open to the public for free. In terms of the project scope itself, we've retained 16 historic buildings, restore and also revitalize them for new use. We also built 2 new buildings, both of them actually in quite a humble height, so that it doesn't actually bring too much intrusion to not that much of a visual impact, particularly if you're looking at the site from the front facade, which is the Hollywood Road. Altogether, we have 300,000 square feet of construction floor area, and that we have 2 open spaces, and that's 40,000 square feet, which is very rare, particularly in a busy district like Central. Among the entire site, 37% is for heritage and arts activities. 36% is actually for our back of house and also for public circulation. And 27%, which is roughly 1/4 of the area, is used for commercial and leisure offerings. Now, in terms of restoring the site back to its most authentic state, the concern has a lot to do with how we can actually make use of the architectural features to convey the heritage significance of the site. These are historic buildings, many of them are more than 100 years old, but at the same time, many of these buildings and the features in this building actually carry stories that are very fond memories from people who used to work at that site. And so these are the fabric that we try our very best to conserve. That includes all the brickworks, the Chinese roof tiles, because we are colonial time buildings. And cornices is quite difficult because we are in a subtropical climate. So doing cornice rendering is actually, you need to be at the right time and the right temperature for it. Woodwork, most of the window frames and doors, they are actually original. So we actually found a local contractor to help us to restore them. Floor and wall tiles, we try our very best to save as much as we can, and if we can't save them, we have to get new ones. But we don't want to mix the old and the new, and so we actually gather all the new tiles at one area, so that we don't actually have we give the wrong impression of old and new being mixed together. Obviously, one of the most difficult jobs that we have done is to strengthen all the buildings. Many of these, as I mentioned, built more than 100 years ago, and these buildings are all built on slopes, and so they're not having the best foundation originally. So we have to go down to the underground to inject micro concrete for all the foundation of the buildings, so that we can actually strengthen the buildings themselves without actually interfering or having any kind of impact to its appearance. So this is Tai Kwun today. That's the armory building with the very famous mango tree at the front. That's the Majesty building. That's the facade. This is a B Hall today, the prison block that is basically the most popular among all exhibitions hall every day. During the summer, even though it's like 35, 36 degrees, there will be people queuing up to go into the cell blocks, and usually it takes them around 20 minutes to go in. We have two new buildings. One building being the JC Contemporary, which house contemporary art spaces. It's designed by Herzog de Meuron, and it has altogether 1,500 meters square of international standard art spaces, which I'll go into in a minute. The other new building is JC Cube, which is an auditorium with 200 seats. Again, it's an auditorium, so it's good for functions like talks, screenings, simpler performances, workshops, and so forth. And right underneath the auditorium, there's what we call the laundry steps. There used to be a laundry, the prison laundry being there, and we took away the building to build this new building, and to commemorate that there used to be a laundry there, we decided to call that the laundry steps. Now, the entire area, the entire plan is to see how we can actually turn a closed-off part of Hong Kong into something that is actually inviting and for all to enjoy. Once again, this today. And so today, as Tai Kwun, we are a Heritage and Arts Center, and we actually open it to the public every day, and it's free for all, except for a few ticketed programs, particularly in performing arts and also workshops. We use the name Tai Kwun because in terms of what we want to do, we the fundamental vision that we have is to provide something for Hong Kong people. And when we are trying to find a name for Tai Kwun, for the site, you can't possibly call it the Center for Heritage and Art without a name. And Tai Kwun is actually a colloquial name that particularly locals and people who used to work on the site, calling what their address is. So if you, even before we opened, if you get a taxi and you go to, you want to go to the area near Tai Kwun, you can just say you want to go to Tai Kwun, and older taxi drivers would actually bring you to number 10 Hollywood Road, which is where we are today. In terms of our vision and mission, we have 4 main pillars. So we have heritage, contemporary arts, performing arts, and lifestyle offerings. Our vision is to provide a model of best practice in heritage conservation, while our mission is to provide the best heritage and arts experience and to cultivate knowledge and appreciation in contemporary art, history, and performing arts. We opened just this year on the 25th of May, we opened after almost 10 years of planning and conservation works. And so in terms of how we present the project to the public, one very important thing for us is to have the buy-in from our stakeholders. Obviously, this is a cultural destination for all to enjoy, and so we have different kinds of offerings, including performing arts, heritage, and also contemporary art as well. And as I mentioned, most of them are free. For heritage, we have 8 permanent spaces to talk about the history of the site. What you see now is actually a photograph of the old armory. We actually make use of the old armory, keep the original gun racks, and use it as part of the installation to talk about some of the more important incidents that the police force has encountered throughout the 100-something years while it was still operational in Tai Kwun. Meanwhile, once again in B Hall, there's quite a lot of projection at the cells. They're very narrow cells. So one thing you notice, there's a common theme in all these photographs is that there are opportunities for people to take photographs. We're not shying away from the Instagram generation. We actually do embrace them. Not everyone is coming to Tai Kwun to look for a particular kind of offerings. They come in for various different reasons. But everyone loves to take a photograph. So the idea is to try to lure them to all these photo spots while at the same time, while they're taking the 80,000 photographs that they have, they can actually also learn a bit more about the history. Okay, I'm going to have to flip through because I have 0 minutes, apparently. So we, aside from all the exhibition rooms, we also want to make use of the site itself. So many of the circulation area, we also have interpretation as well. And once again, large illustration there. One thing that we want to make sure that we do is to build that connection to the public. We're talking about the history of law and order. We're talking about architectural history here. We're talking about the early colonial time. I think particularly for local visitors, they are fully aware of the importance of the site and its history, but then it's not necessarily something that they would care for. And that's the best way to build that empathy and bridge that gap between general audience and our stories is through people's stories. So in the past few years, we have interviewed dozens of officers who used to work here, and using their stories to tell the public why the site is important. And as you can see, this is actually from their point of view as well. Sometimes they contradict, but we also think that that's fine. And hopefully that the general audience will actually understand better the importance of the site through these officers' stories. Besides a permanent exhibition to talk about the history of the site, we also have daily guided tours. So we have 2 to 3 tours a day, and they're constantly full because I think the site is still new, so people would like to be led around. It's quite a large site as well, but we also do encourage people to do their a journey by themselves as well. And so the guided tour is really just a preview of exactly what the site is about and to prompt them to do further discovery later on. We also do quite a lot of learning programs, including workshops. Workshops that we try our very best to link it back to the history of the site. So, for example, that is actually an artist, Nixon Wong, doing an ad hoc, I think he's here, doing a program on writing poetry under the mango tree because one of the prisoners that we used to jail was a poet. And so every single workshop that we're doing, we try our very best to link it back to the history instead of just the activity itself. And we also do all kinds of different kinds of interpretation instead of just asking you to go into an exhibition hall to learn more about the history. What we're doing right now is a stamp collection campaign for you to understand a lot more about a particular building. We also do thematic exhibitions. So at the opening, we have an exhibition called 100 Faces of Tai Kwun, which is to invite our neighbors to give us stories of their memories of Tai Kwun and of Central as well, and we presented them in a kind of a interactive way, so that we can actually celebrate their stories with us. The exhibition itself has attracted 270,000 people coming in, which is by far the most popular exhibitions in Tai Kwun. And many of them are actually our neighbors who keep bringing their grandkids back to take a look at their own stories. And this is also our own way to bridge our gap with our community as well. Currently, we're doing an exhibition on Guangdong, so looking at the site's history in a very different way, looking into picking an icon of the site to explore its influence on not just the site itself, but also to the Chinese culture. Also, we are doing all kinds of impact programs. So we are inviting audience to join us to actually celebrate the neighborhood as well. And so this is mailing a postcard is actually one of our activities back in August and September. For contemporary art, we are doing exhibitions with presented by local and overseas art groups. They are the presenters, and they would be responsible for the topic themselves and the curatorship itself as well. Besides dismantling the scaffold, we also have one open exhibition back in May, which is for Wing Po So, an up-and-coming artist in Hong Kong. Currently, we have an exhibition for Chow Fei, and one of the major pieces in the exhibition is her doing a 60-minute film, and it's shot in Tai Kwun right before we open. Obviously, we also have different kinds of public art program, including installation at the prison yard. We have performances on the weekends. Every Friday, we have art after hours, so we have different kinds of programs to inject more elements into our contemporary art programs. Every first Sunday of the month, there is also a family day, so that parents can bring their kids through the different kinds of activities to understand more about allowing them to be exposed to contemporary art. For performing arts, one very important element is to do site-specific performances. So at the opening week, we actually have a performance that actually make use of the parade ground, and it did attract a lot of particularly local visitors to come and take a look at it. We have a seasonal program, so every year we have a theater season, and then we have a family season, and then we have also a dance season as well, so that we can actually build a pattern in Tai Kwun in terms of performing arts. The performing arts program also go into the community as well, and so a program that we are having right now is called Every Life is a Song. There's actually a performance in this coming Sunday, and this is a photograph of the artist actually interacting with one of our tenants, Mr. Yuen, who runs Yuen's Tailor, and he used to run the tailor shop in Central Market, and today his shop is in Tai Kwun. In terms of leisure offerings, we have F&B and also shops as well, and the selection of these shops and restaurants rely on a lot of their commitment to provide also cultural offerings to Tai Kwun, and so many of particularly shops will do some of the programs inside the shops. Some of them are workshops or sharing, or sometimes musical performances. In terms of, I'm going to speed through this. In terms of marketing, we try our very best to do something that actually celebrate the site itself. And so for our merchandises, for our first batch of merchandise, we try our very best to make use of the logos and our branding itself, so as to establish the branding. And then last month, we actually reached 1 million visitors, which is beyond the expectation, but we'll try our very best to sustain that. In terms of the profile of our visitors, because I think that will come up later on, you notice that actually almost half of them are actually people from 31 to 50 years old. We thought there would be more younger people, because you see a lot of people taking photographs all the time. But it's actually, half of them is actually aged 31 to 50. And most of the people spend around 2 hours in Tai Kwun. Obviously, because of our connections with the nearby neighborhood, most of the people came by the MTR. You see that actually fundamentally half of the visitors are families, which means that our offerings are actually providing something that will be appropriate for family to come by. And then most of the people actually come with a group of people instead of just on their own. And finally, this is something that we will have to keep working on, which is to have repeat visitors. And so, as you see currently, the people we have surveyed, most of them are actually the first-time visitor, but we do look forward to inviting them back in the future. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning. It's almost good afternoon. And my name is Jongtaek Park from Korean Cultural Center. And the previous two presentations were very impressive. Thank you for Art Basel and Tai Kwun. And actually, I came in Hong Kong the end of February this year. That's my first visit. It's an English presentation in Hong Kong and Korea. It's the first time I needed a script. And this conference is very generous for the time limitation. Thank you. I will read my presentation without time limitation, okay? Don't worry about that. And I think over and over what is the new perspective on the cultural tourism. I think the culture itself, the content is very good. very important, and tourism is marketing. This is my content. This is my this present with here, and I want to introduce to you how the cultural tourism is defined in Korea and some instances for reference. Before my position in Hong Kong, I worked for Minister of Culture and Tourism since 1997, and I worked part of culture, sports, art, and entertainment and tourism. At least for me, from my work experience, everything is very important. Is the attracting people, and it is about the tourism, cultural tourism. And first of all, the definition of cultural tourism, the OECD, from the report of the OECD, the impact of culture on tourism, they emphasize on growth and economic development and job and income. And UNESCO, sustainable tourism, cultural natural heritage, and community economic sustainability. Of course, the UNESCO has recently launched the activities to prove cultural resources that have regional development and life improvement. The analysis said that solving the economic problems impact heavily on preservation of cultural heritage. The UN World Tourism Organization said that 30% of the whole global tourism is the cultural tourism. But in fact, it is not wrong to say all existing tourism types is cultural tourism. So my presentation is a little bit understandable there. In Korea, cultural tourism is widely used this word, art, heritage, craft, and museum, and gallery, festival, and motivation, activities, special interest, tourism, education, promotion, local development. Following the policy for the organization involved in cultural tourism, the Ministry of Culture and Sports Tourism in Korea and the Cultural Heritage Administration deal with the lawyers and institutions and budget for more executive level local government and organization like Korean tourism and Korean creative content agents are in charge. In cultural tourism, private organizations are important. In particular, the support and participation in the public is the most important factor. Even if the government changes, the basis of promoting cultural tourism is maintained. Current policy vision of Korean government for cultural tourism is as follows. The expression has changed, but the promotion culture and art, improving the quality of public and linkage of culture and tourism continues to be emphasized. I think there were 3 big changes for cultural tourism in Korea, from my understanding, like this. When we discussing the linkage between culture and tourism in Korea, it is very important to focus on the organizational change and of law and government. In 1994, the tourism was promoted by the Ministry of Transportation. At that time, transportation such as trains and planes were very important. After that, Ministry of Culture and Tourism has made laws and policy for cultural tourism. In 2009, the Cultural Heritage Administration recognized the importance of cultural activities. The Cultural Heritage Administration then divided the Cultural Heritage the Cultural Heritage Bureau into 2 parts, preservation and utilization. The separation helped to think about the new ways to use cultural assets and link them with the tourism. And next is local government. Actually, local government in Korea was selected through election in 1995 Since then, a lot of festivals with the culture and arts theme were born. Also, organizations such as the Regional Culture Association and Tourism Organization was formed. But since the link of culture and tourism, the revitalization of cultural tourism has been done by a local government competition system. So, what is the cultural tourism cover? Today, theme is art and heritage, but I want to add one more thing to cultural industry. It's entertainment. I see cultural tourism in big part culture, art, and cultural industry and heritage. The Department for Digital Culture, Media, and Sport of the United States, United Kingdom government presented 13 creative industries in 1998. This included some art and cultural industry. I think this best show the range of cultural tourism in new perspective. Of course, the heritage is missing in the classification, yet I cannot overemphasize that cultural heritage is the most important category in cultural tourism. Interestingly, this March, the British DCMS released a report titled "Culture is Digital." The report focuses on the latest trend and cover future discussion of culture. In the new perspective, digital is highlighted. The culture is the digital, is regarding audience. This report explains digital technology to engage audience across different digital platforms and skills, digital capability of a cultural organization. For example, national gallery partnership like the NESTA and the UK Royal Opera House Audience Lab. In Korea, local government and already introduced AI and VR, the big data system digital to its art and tourist event, and already take advantage using the IT technology to the cultural tourism. Based on this classification, I take a look at some instance. And art, first of all, art linked with the tourism. Firstly, the Lanta, the name of the performance, the present Korea traditional art and the samurai, and develop them into a tourism project. Launched in 1997, in 2015, Nanta reached more than 10 million visitors and became the regular package item for foreign tourists. In second case is the Daegu Metropolitan City Opera Festival. And Daegu has no relations with the art genre of opera. In early 2000, no one understood the rationale of opening opera festival in Daegu. Well, it is difficult to discuss whether the festival ended success or not. I don't know. However, this proves that art genre continues to spot its light in new cities, and that more attempts to link art with the tourism are being made. The last one is the third one is I think you must be familiar with the Gwangju Biennale. And this is the most representative cultural event in Gwangju. In fact, it's being used to bring more and more customers. This is one more case, the Seoul Theater Festival and Gochang International Festival Theater. This is all related to theater and local government. This festival introduced because of for tourism promotion. Next is I want to talk about the link between cultural industry, entertainment with the tourism. The cultural industry too has a close to relationship with the tourism. The most representative of theme of them is the Busan International Film Festival. During the festival season, the tourists from all over the world gather and make a new record. And coincidentally, the second one is a game show held in the same city, Busan, every year. The data with the number of visitors are important because of they provide gaming companies for new strategies. The third one is, you can see it. The third one is Paju. I want to report to Paju City, north of Seoul. Here, the largest Paju is the largest publishing distribution of books city, and the Paju, using the books, readings, literature theme festival are being held every year. More literature and art theme festival are being carried out every year. Next is the heritage and cultural tourism. Heritage cultural tourism go together in preservation and utilization problems, intangible and tangible cultural asset, restoration program, and so on. But they differ in the operation progress. First, let's look at temple stay instance. Temple stay let people relax during their visit to the temples as they sleep in Buddhist temples, learn meditation, experience Korean Buddhism, and enjoy food. The temple stay was first started in 2002 with the opening of the World Cup that year to broadly introduce Korean culture to the world. So far, there have been more than 4 million people who have experienced temple stay. Temple stay are praised to have led quite a temple to long last in the woods. Next one is there are many old palaces in Seoul. The restoration project are still in the progress for the better conservation. The night visit were not allowed due to the conservation reason in all the palaces, but the Moonlight Tour project got reservation to let limited number of people in, and performance were introduced in the palace. It is very difficult for the old palace to open at night for preservation problem, but pre-booking and time limitation has solved these problems. The following is the example of Yangdong village in Gyeongju, the east southern of Korea. It was designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2010. And there are people living in the Yangdong village for over 600 years, and tourists are still allowed to visit their village. And this is Andong Mask Dance Festival. It's using the traditional heritage. And this is Namgang Yudong Festival. It's kind of a lantern festival. It's a very long history in that area. I've talked about the three main topics and many instances. I cannot go deeper in the details of the success and failure cause the conservation utilization problems, but I find out the common factors among the examples I've introduced. And I think this is a very important fact in cultural tourism. I believe that this is my new and crucial perspective from my experience. The first one is storytelling. This is adapted to all kinds of cultural tourism. Storytelling is very important to cultural art and tourism. The reorganizing history for better understanding is very important. If there is no existing history, it is also good to make one. The second one is creativity. In other words, diversity. The creativity is also emphasized when discussing art and cultural heritage. This is especially true when it comes to marketing and utilization. I think a third one is the expertise of workforce. It is important to build the converged workforce in cultural art and cultural arts and tourism. The fourth is cooperation. I think there is always a conflict in the cultural tourism. The same goes for cultural art. There is criticism say the cultural art must be respected for its existence only. They say that they do not welcome the marketing linked with the tourism and cultural art. They assert that there is too much numbers and data when talking of culture and arts. Rather than the conflict, also cooperation and coordination is required. The next is the technology. For instance, technology as AI, VI, and big data are very essential in cultural preservation. Recently, technology and digital have been introduced in development and marketing to satisfy tourists. The sixth one is big data. And big data is highly emphasized in tourism, but it also plays an important role in cultural art. The cultural art industry are sharing the importance of using the big data. The seventh is marketing. Goal marketing and audience participation are getting more attention, in particular for long-lasting cultural tourism. Enlargement of audience participation is a must. Finally, the Korean government and the local government regard the cultural aspect and tourism aspect in the same spectrum. The current government is focused on the cultural tourism implication, requires a cultural tourism implication in their policy making. I believe these are the 8 concepts that I discovered to be new perspectives. I believe that any kind of cultural tourism could be analyzed in these 8 perspectives. I'd like to explain the formal example of a temple stay by using 8 factors. Yes, I believe that new perspective in temple stay and first storytelling. The nationwide more than 150 temples provide temple stay services. Each temple tries to attract people. People like to stay in temples with interesting stories or history. For example, some temples make stories for meditation or health. If they have a big story, they can get strong point compared to other temples. The creative second one is a temple with creative programs, diverse temple food will be prepared. And human resources, temple with good instructors, English-speaking guidance can be better service to the customers. And cooperation. A lot of temples are in rural area in the mountains, so they should cooperate with the neighbors and some environment groups. Technology is very important. The AI, VI technology is being used to improve their activities in temple stay. Some temples provide a digital image of VR activities for more understanding Buddhism, and big data, marketing, cultural tourism, and implication is almost can be to be all kind of cultural tourism. And thank you. I hope my presentation will be helpful for your understanding. Thank you.
Okay, don't worry, I'll be absolutely punctual. So give me like 5-6 minutes, and then you can like kick me out. After my make a few response, and all these speakers will be invited to this stage, and we'll have like short discussion. Okay, so my name is Paul Chan. I'm a cultural entrepreneur who started working like a cultural enterprise called Walk in Hong Kong. So I'll make a few make a few observation and response to about the discussion on tourism, especially cultural tourism in Hong Kong. Okay, so what's the, let me just give you a few snapshots about the discussion of tourism in Hong Kong. Like when people talk about tourism in Hong Kong, what are they talking or discussing right now? Number one, how people look at our tourism. Anyone from Taiwan? Anyone from Taiwan? Okay, so recently in the mayor of Taipei, the Kwun, make a road trip to other side, and when he was cornered by the reporters about the staggering high number of visitors to Hong Kong and relatively low number visitors number in Taipei, his response. This is how his response. Okay, so anyone remember the remark? Okay, so literally, let me literally translate. Okay, Hong Kong is quite boring, and it's only like an island and without nothing to see. So technically, Hong Kong is not just an island. We have about 260 islands indeed. But this is how the mayor, like other key political leaders in other cities, look at our tourism. Okay, so I start my leap of faith. Like when I start this company, I actually moonlighting as a banker. So 3 years ago, I quit my job and make the leap of faith, and expect some celebrated coverage from the media. But what it earns? Sorry. How come it's a slide. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so everyone's laugh. So you know there's the reason. Like popular character in the cyberspace, and over tourism is a problem. And you know recently the Tung Chung that it was like swarmed by tourists, so we make fun of it. Okay, quite funny. Okay, so literally it can be translated. Okay, anyone will be scared by something like this. Yes, it's tourism going. Back to my story. I make the leap of faith and I become a full-time entrepreneur. But what it ends up, okay, I earned a nickname called Tour Guy Mr. Paul. Yeah, which like definitely everyone knows is a mockery because. We have another more legendary tour guide. He's called Douyao Ah Zhen. Anyone knows her? Okay, who somehow force people to buy things, force tourists to buy things, and therefore make a big fuss. So this is and this is like what the recent discussion on tourism, and this is the layers of the tourism board. Several years ago. So these are the 4 major highlights. So be the Peak, the Ocean Park, the Disneyland, and the Big Buddha. I want to make a quick survey here. In the past 2 years, any one of you has ever visited each of these 4 attractions? Please raise your hands. Each of them. Like you've been to all of them. Okay, let me see. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we have 4 hands here. 5 hands here. Okay, so like in quite many cases, no one really raised their hands. But you know that this is our 4 major destination. But say for local audience, would we visit all of them? Then definitely no. And in the same page, there's another list, which is the top 10 attractions. In Hong Kong, and which top number 1 is the this in about 5 years ago that the Avenue of Star being the top of the list, but this attraction now is under renovation. There's also comes to the top of another list, which is this one. CNN Travel termed it as one of the most disappointing. Tourism attractions. To be fair, now it's under renovation, so we are looking forward to the new life of this site. But once, back in several years ago, people regard it as a tourist trap. So now we have a new layout, and to the credit to the Hong Kong Tourism Board, they see there's some need of change. Yeah. So and also the correct celebrate a change to a more cultural side of the city. Oh, talking about landmarks, whenever tourism encounter great problem, we say, okay, let's build some landmark, and all the district councillors will come up, okay, let's do some landmark. But if you see what landmark we have actually fabricated, then we'll probably have a second thought. Say these one. Okay, so these one. So like for the selling of computer, you make this. Selling of jewelry, you make this. But what comes as the best and impressive landmark, my vote is this one. In the place called Samjiang, when people would go there to have goose. So in order to highlight this district personality, they remake a goose. Yeah. I have to say that the tactic is so successful. It's so kitsch that that really motivate me to deliberately make a visit there. Okay, so like a quick, all this snapshot about tourism in Hong Kong. Do we have a better option? Definitely yes. We believe that we can have better tourism experience, and one way we perceive the problem is we believe that localhood is the best or the better attractions. But what does localhood really contribute? It's quite hard to say, so I decide to make a video.
歡迎
to tell about.
Hong Kong, not only karaoke. Come sing and dance together. Very, very fun.
再嚟過，聽唔到啊 ？My Snake 係嘛 ？My Snake Education very happy song very good 㗎。People call me 米芝蓮。
No 先謝 very good。又平又靚，靚到飛起啊！
I really like every detail of the city, and I hope that you can feel the beauty of Hong Kong through my drawings.
貓叫 cat， 床叫 bed， 我咁肥叫做 very fat， 我係識咁多英文嘅咋。Not old, transmission, you need.
Okay, hopefully we can bring a more charming and more unique, authentic, immersive side of Hong Kong, and also a city with human touch. This is what we believe to be a higher benchmark of our tourism, and also through tourism we can try to contribute to the conservation. We conserve the better cultural fabrics and even say the traditions of our city. And we believe that this is what a kind of a new way to help contribute this. So, and we believe that we also need, in order to have a better city, we need to somehow participate we need to actively preserve our heritage. So it comes to a very awkward moment that we as a tour operator actually took up a conservation campaign in the past 2 years. It's concerning theatre in North Point. So this is the theatre in North Point. To make a long story short, we fight really hard to keep it, because we believe that heritage building, if it can be conserved and revitalized properly, it can be a tourism highlight. So we do all this. I want to end the discussion by a video that we made on this theatre. Oh, it doesn't work. Can it? There should be a video. Yeah.
我咧係49年喺上海嚟香港，我屋企咧應該就係喺香港。嗰時香港係好多戲院，唔係而家啲蚊型戲院，好宏偉嘅，好大嘅戲院。入去睇戲係一件事幹嚟嘅。皇都戲院嚟講咧，呢個建築嚟講係一個比較特別啲嘅。佢呢度上邊嗰個吊住吉利殼，喺其他嘅城市都唔係好多見到嘅。建築亦係一種歷史，原則上我希望係保留所謂一個戲院式嘅設計，而利用呢種設計去做好多唔同嘅 function。呢個既然咁有特色嘅一個歷史嘅建築，點解我哋唔去留低佢？
Okay, So you probably recognize Mr. Ken Zhang, a very experienced actor who also helped like a lot in the campaign, and I really like his phrase, like the architecture is a kind of history, so heritage building is a key part of it. So back to the joke about the blue man, the blue man anyone. So my thought is, my thought is, anyone is indeed in the tourism industry. So it's like we can no longer bring a very segmented perception about the tourism industry, because when a visitor comes to Hong Kong, the very first moment he gets in touch with our city, this is the beginning of his tourism industry. And therefore, everyone is not only about the tour guide, not about the retail, not about hospitality. Everyone here is actually play a part in the tourism industry. So, and with this note, I'll end my response. But we have to ensure that the cultural tourism in Hong Kong must be a people-based industry and experience. Okay, so this is what we finally make when the mayor make the remarks. So we invite them. Okay, we know that we should do better in terms of like promoting our tourism. Okay, so please come to Hong Kong, and we'll design a very good itinerary for you. So definitely a joke, but it turns out to trigger rather serious discussion in the Taiwan media. So suddenly, like walking in Hong Kong appeared prominently in the Taiwan media. Okay, so thank you very much,
Okay, maybe let me start first. So I'm really impressed by Patrick's remark that when he said that okay, city is let me go. He said city as an open museum. Yeah. So the discussion somehow cover a question about where the arts and culture should be expressed. So and get in touch with the visitors to the city. Maybe we can use this as a beginning and see how you elaborate, like where should this art and culture be housed and fully expressed. Maybe Patrick can make some remark.
I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be of a certain age, so I remember experiencing in my student time the architect, I think he's over 100 years of age today, Hkaaa, doing the pyramid in the Louvre, the glass pyramid, which was at the time extremely controversial. Each time you bring contemporary art into heritage, you create some sort of tension. You know, when we had Jeff Koons in 2008 bringing some work into the Chateau de Versailles, the royal family who still believe they own the building, or their descendant, tried to sue him. And then we had Murakami in 2010. I think in Basel with the show, we have a program called Art Parcours, where we commission about 12, 13 artists to produce art piece in situ outside. And Basel is a very old, traditional place. It's a beautiful old village in a way with about 300,000 inhabitants, so bigger than a village. But I think that confrontation between art and culture is extraordinary, and the experience of Buenos Aires, where we really brought contemporary art into heritage building quite a few times, or places that were abandoned and desolated but had an incredible life in the past. That revival in terms of the relationship between the people living there every day and also international visitors was of extreme appeal, and make the experience magical for tourists or people who just came to Buenos Aires for the first time. So I think it's extremely important. And I don't see any limit to it, except there will always be. I worked on the Louvre and the museum in Abu Dhabi, where 50 years ago you just had pearl industry and dates industry, and today they've made a cultural destination that attract an incredible number of people. Even Dubai with 12 million visitors. I think Hong Kong has 9 million visitors a year. And the Louvre today is getting 8 million visitors a year from 16 million tourists coming to Paris. So you definitely need art and culture as much as possible to engage with heritage. And what you've just shown about Hong Kong is also wonderful and marvelous and should be celebrated. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will put the question to Winnie, who's running a very fantastic project of Tai Kwun. So about the culture and art, we see that there's two aspects, that there's quite a local element, but you also try to invite international elements. So during the process, how you actually try to scale them or try to make a better interaction between the local and the international cultural and artistic element, which should be quite a headache.
Thank you. I think it's an ongoing process where we actually got in touch with quite a lot of stakeholders, particularly in the industry, to try to find out exactly what they're looking for. And I think in my presentation, I think we highlighted a few times about the importance, and you highlighted as well, about the importance of the local culture, uniqueness in the society. And in order to do so, you need the buy-in from your neighbors, buy-in from your own local stakeholders. And so when it comes to building a destination that fundamentally is actually for Hong Kong people, we try our very best to see it from their point of view, or exactly what they would want. At the end of the day, you see that a lot of our programs are still from Hong Kong. Obviously, we have other collaboration from the overseas partners as well, but it's a very unique destination that, in terms of the spatial setting as well, that it would actually be a very good location for them to test something new. And so I think that's how we moved into where we are today.
Okay, and any question from the floor?
Yes, I have a question to the lady from Tai Kwun too. I've heard that, internationally famous writer, Mr. Ma Jin, who has been invited to Hong Kong to take part in an international literary festival, and he has been barred, or is being barred from talking at Tai Kwun. Now, if this were the case, I think, it's going to be very damaging to the name of Tai Kwun internationally. Please respond.
Thank you for your observation. I think we released a statement yesterday, so I won't go any further than that. In terms of the event itself, it was a decision being made by Tai Kwun, and we worked very hard to try to find an alternative venue for those two programs.
Okay, I have a final question for Mr. Park. That I am really impressed by the tempo stay that you highlight. But as like my personal experience, if we want to create and curate very good cultural experience for visitors, somehow we are always hindered by the government, or there's a lot of regulations or lots of these things. Say we try to do the village stay in the new territories, but we find it is so bloody troublesome, with all the regulations. So say from your experience, can you share some of the Korean experience, how the government or the governmental authority will help facilitate this curation of this experience?
Actually, all the government and the local government and all kinds of organizations try to promote their culture and tourism to attract people. So 20 years ago and 10 years ago, right now, very different to think of their project will be successful. And for example, 20 years ago, that's the culture and arts program. It was very successful. But from this currently, we think that very different situation. So I will always think of some kind of template, thinking criteria and standard to promote on cultural tourism. So it will be changed. And for example, 10 years ago and 20 years ago, nobody emphasize for that technology. That in this way, in this technology is very important for that. So we need to think of some own criteria to the tourism and cultural tourism. We need to think about that. I think that, and Korean government and emphasize for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So no lunch is waiting. Probably like it's the time to end. But let us give the big round of applause to all the speakers who share their insights and also the important lessons and experience for us to move forward and to come up with better cultural and artistic experience for our visitors. Okay, so thank you very much. I'll pass the time to the MC again.